Today is Thursday, February 4th. This is my update on my Hansa trip that is currently occurring. 4 days down of my 5-day treatment period this time. These are my notes I'm setting up so I can see. I just wanted to kind of follow up on a few things I said yesterday that I wasn't perfectly clear about, or as clear as I would have liked to have been. I mentioned about my CRT showing improvement, and what it basically was showing is that even the areas that are still showing problem areas, they are less reactive. So the degrees of the problems is decreasing. So that's really good. Also, the bacteria thing. Yesterday, Dr. Strite worked on making a remedy for me to deal with bacterial infection. Wait. Maybe that was 2 days ago. But yesterday I talked about the mitochondria cycle that's being disrupted, and that somehow that related to inflammation. And the deal was that it appeared that probably what's happening is my body is actually producing inflammation to deal with the bacterial infection, because inflammation is actually, when it does what it's supposed to do, it's a good thing. It's when it's chronic and the problem doesn't get corrected that it becomes an issue. But inflammation is a process that occurs in your body naturally for a good purpose. So it looked like that potentially what's happening is some of the inflammation is being caused to deal with the bacteria. And so it's contributing to the inflammation problem, and then it was contributing to this disruption in the mitochondrial cycle. I also referred to the little machine that Dr. Strite used on my head as making a vibrating motion, and I remembered after I made the video that's actually a percussor. It percusses, it doesn't vibrate, although my feeling of the motion is like it's vibrating. It's a different kind of motion, which is a percussion. So that perhaps is not something that's all that important, but it's a detail I wanted to be sure to correct, because in the world of healthcare, the difference between a vibration and a percussing sensation, it does a different thing in the body. And last night I was looking over my notes, sort of from the very beginning of when I was starting to move in the direction of getting to Hansa. I had a telephone appointment and consultation with Dr. David Jernigan, who's the guy that started the clinic. He does phone consultations with people who would potentially be wanting to visit the Hansa Center. You send your health information, and then he looks it over and he goes over it with you just to see, what, they can't diagnose over the phone or treat or give advice or anything like that, but just discuss your case. And if he thinks that the Hansa Center can help you, which I think most people at the Hansa Center can help. Not everybody, but most people. So those are just little notes on things I wanted to update. Today I'm having a weird day. I'm a little off. It kind of started last night, actually. I got to bed later than I intended to, for various reasons. And then I have a remedy. I have several remedies that I take before I go to bed. Supplements. One of them is magnesium. One of them is fiber. And there's 4 of them. One of them is called Calmzyme, and it's a mix of enzymes to calm down the gut. And for those of you who don't know, the gut actually has a lot to do with sleep and it's important to have good gut health. Well, overall health, is really important to have a good, clean, healthy gut. But um, sleep in particular is one thing that can be highly disrupted if there are problems in the gut. So I have to take this Calmzyme to calm down the whole gut area. And it's a remedy that I was showing that it wasn't hurting me and I can take it, but it didn't say that I necessarily needed it. So I thought I would play around with how I was doing it. It's something that I would take 2 pills about an hour to 2 hours before I go to bed, and then I would take 2 pills right as I'm going to bed. So last night I took the 2 that I normally take ahead of time, but when I got time to go to sleep, I I didn't really even plan it. I fell asleep pretty quickly, and then I woke up and I forget how it all went, but for some reason I didn't plan to not take it, but when it came to the point where I was like, oh, I should get up and take that, I thought, oh, I'm just going to experiment with not taking it and see how it goes, especially because Dr. Straight had given me this thing to correct a histamine issue, and that should help with sleep. So I just kind of wanted to play around with it and see what might happen. So I slept for a few hours, and then I was just kind of awake on and off for a while and not sleeping well. And at 4 o'clock, I was just awake. And at that point, it's too late to take a sleep aid. I do have an over-the-counter sleep aid that I will also sometimes take, and I have a whole process of how all these things work out, if I will take them or not, depending on how each night is going. And since I've been here, I have taken that sleep aid a couple of nights, but not every night, and I've been sleeping decently. And so, but 4 a.m., it's too late to take that because it's not enough time to get to sleep and sleep enough of it off to make it worth it. Even if I don't sleep at all the rest of the night from 4 o'clock on, if I have to get up at a certain time, which I did, there's no point in taking that at 4 a.m. Even if I take it like 11 or 12 o'clock at night and sleep all night, I have basically like a sleeping pill hangover. But if I take that at 4 a.m., that's terrible the next day. Trying to get through the next day is terrible. I'd rather just be tired from not sleeping than have the effects of the pill. So I didn't take that, but my stomach was just really active. I could feel lots going on in there, and my stomach not really growling, but making noises. And I had this place in my lower abdomen that was just like it was twitching, and I've been having that on and off for weeks now, but it was just going and going and going and going and going. It was very active and very uncomfortable. So I got up and I did take 2 more Calmzymes, and I ate an apple. The apple calmed my stomach, and the Calmzyme seemed to calm the rest of my gut. And then about 15 minutes later, I did fall asleep, and I slept another 3 hours. Got up, went to the bathroom, slept another hour, and then I had to get up. So it did work to calm down my stomach. But in that experimenting, I ended up having a really off night, and I woke up feeling really off. My head was weird, just spacey and hard to think. My body hurt, my back especially, and the different places in my back and shoulders and stuff. And then I don't know, just everything was weird. And I got out to first I was up and I was early, and then all of a sudden I was maybe going to be late if I didn't hurry up and get out. So I got out to the car, and now I get out to the car and I'm going to be just on time if everything goes smoothly. But the window's frosted over, and it's a rental car, so there's no ice scraper, or so I thought. When I got home today, I actually found an ice scraper in the back seat. But this morning I thought there was no ice scraper because I hadn't seen one in the trunk or in the front or anything. And I didn't even think to look in the back seat, which is where I found it, because that's just a weird place to me to have an ice scraper. But I guess I should have looked there, but I didn't. So this morning I'm out there scraping ice off. with my fingernails. It wasn't ice, it was frost, and it's Kansas frost, so it wasn't too bad at all. It came off very easily. It was not a problem, but it took a few minutes. I mean, in Wisconsin, I know I've scraped ice off of windows. I've never scraped ice off of car windows, like when I needed to drive, but just playing with the kids or whatever, I've scraped ice with my fingernails, and, it's cold, and sometimes a big piece of ice will get jammed up in your fingernail, and that really hurts. But this wasn't like that. It was soft and, closer to being wet than hard and painful. So it wasn't really a big issue. It just was taking extra time. Then I get to the Hansa Center, and I'm a few minutes late, but just weird stuff would happen, like my glass bottle bang on the door really loud, and it's supposed to be a quiet, healing environment, and then like a timer went off for one of my therapies, and I knew it was going off soon, but when it went off, by the time it went off, my mind was like completely spaced out somewhere else, and I missed it, and I was supposed to go to the next therapy, and so now they're waiting for me at the other therapy. And anyway, just a weird day. I felt weird. My head felt really weird. I was in pain. So that I got to my doctor appointment finally. After I did 3 therapies. I did the Beamer, then I did Lux, and that was on my liver and spleen. The liver had green light, and the spleen had like an orange light, and then I did the ST8, and they did that again on the upper lymph nodes with the Valkian, which is the oxygen. And then I had water sounds with the Lux. I've had water every day this week when I do the Lux. It's like running water and birds and stuff this time, and yesterday was the same one, I think. Anyway, so those are the therapies I did, and then I get to the doctor, and I was telling him all of this, and I had thought it was kind of related to the Calmzyme issue, which I think it probably contributed to the issue. I just didn't get enough sleep. But he actually then thought, he checked the remedies he gave me yesterday to make sure I wasn't having a reaction to any of them. And it turned out that I was having basically an emotional allergy to the one that he gave me for bacterial invasion. And then he explained to me basically what happens is your body establishes a homeostasis, like a balance. And he didn't say homeostasis, and that might be the wrong word to use, but your body establishes a normal way of of operating within itself. So that's has its own norm, and even if it's a sick norm, it finds a norm. And now now I'm taking this remedy to help with the bacterial invasion, and the body's like, no, even though this is a healing thing, it kind of fights it sometimes because healthy isn't part of the norm. So that's essentially what was happening, was this emotional allergy, and it's not a conscious thing. It's not like I was purposely rejecting it. It's just something that happens in the body sometimes, and so that was happening. So he gave me something to counteract that, and hopefully that'll help. When I'm done making this video, I'm going to rest, and hopefully that also will go a long way to helping. Then we went over, I had blood drawn on Monday to get some lab tests. Here they are. And we went over the results. And I'm not going to go over them, every little thing, but the overall theme was just weird stuff going on. For example, I had fasted for 12 hours, but I had a blood sugar of 102, which is really high when you haven't eaten. A blood sugar of 102 is good if you've eaten, but I hadn't eaten for 12 hours. So that's really high for not having eaten. There was an issue there connected with that with hemoglobin A1C. It was high as well. And so it's weird. I take pretty high supplementation of magnesium, but my magnesium was too low. And then iron is really low. And cholesterol, really low. And yet, like, I have sources of cholesterol. So it's like the cholesterol's in there getting into my body but not being used properly or made properly Like I'm maybe getting the ingredients that you need to make the cholesterol, but it's not, the cholesterol isn't getting made. Um, my vitamin D was too high, even though I'm taking the exact supplementation that my body is showing that it needs. So that's weird. My thyroid showed some issues in both the thermography report I had done before I came here and in the CRT that we did this week while I've been here. And yet the blood test shows that my thyroid is perfect. Now that is more just evidence of the fact that blood work isn't always, you can't just go off of blood work and say, okay, all the blood numbers are good, so you're healthy. That's not necessarily true. It's definitely not true in this case. Just some other things. Some things showed strange, but were explainable by other issues that we've already dealt with in previous days. So anyway, the overall issue with blood work is just some strange things going on, and we just have to find why they're happening. So after we looked at that, we looked at hormones, and that's going to be related to cholesterol stuff too. And I was showing super high levels of testosterone, which didn't surprise me because actually I've had hormone work done before, and testosterone's been high. My estrogen was really high, and then it seemed that my body's producing extra levels of progesterone to balance the excess levels of testosterone, and yet my body's then not, it's still not balancing. So it's producing all this stuff, but it's not working together, and nothing is doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's working, it's doing, like the system is working. It's not that the system is dead. It's not that I don't have a functioning hormone system. It's that the things that it's doing are just all over the place and it has no idea what to do. So I showed a toxicity to estrone, had a toxicity to a bunch of, and I don't know if they were all estrogens or all estrones. There's a lot of different like types of hormones. And we talked about several of them. But I had a toxicity to a whole bunch of them. I think I had some deficiencies, and then I had some excesses. So to make a long story short, he gave me something to basically pull out the excess estrogen, and then something else that should balance the rest of the systems. And so it'll be interesting to see if that corrects some of these cholesterol issues that I'm showing, what all changes from here on out. So weird day in a lot of ways, but it feels like we actually are finally getting to the nitty-gritties of the issues that I need help with. A lot of these things that we've gotten to this week are things that other practitioners of different kinds have tried to work with me, have tried to correct, and they just haven't done anything really to help me. And now I understand why, is because first of all, there were many layers to get down to bothering to work with this stuff. There was other stuff that needed to be corrected first, and also there's a lot of strange things going on that I don't know that there's any other kind of medicine besides biological medicine, what they do at the Hansa Center, that could detect and then correct what we're looking at now. I don't think we did anything with blood sugar today, but my doctor did say that blood sugar is a relatively easy fix for, from the Hansa perspective. So I think we'll work with that later. He said also we will look at some brainwave activity, that there's a potential that I have a disruption in the sleep cycle where you have 50% theta waves and 50% delta waves, which you have to go through to get to the point where you have 100% delta, where you're really sleeping deeply. And if I'm having trouble getting through that 50-50 zone, then I'd be having a hard time sleeping. And that actually would make sense, because there's a lot of times where I can feel myself falling asleep, And then it's like the moment where I should fall into sleep, instead of falling into sleep, I just wake up for no reason. And it's so frustrating because then I'm just awake and I can't get back to sleep. I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm exhausted. I'm tired, but I'm not sleepy. So I'm really interested to see what we find tomorrow. Um, but yeah, I do feel like we're getting down to the things that are really potentially going to improve my experience of life. Pulling out all that extra estrogen should go a long way with decreasing pain because estrogen induces pain. Um, in, I guess, probably estrogen in the wrong amounts or whatever. I mean, estrogen is a natural thing to have in your body, so I'm sure in proper proportions and all that, it shouldn't cause pain, but I have too much of it, so that's probably causing a lot of my pain. And getting the inflammation under control should decrease pain, um, or at least help in the process of decreasing the pain. Working with the mitochondria issue we did yesterday should help with energy levels. If we can get me sleeping with this brainwave stuff, plus some of this other stuff should help with sleep. The histamine thing I think is going to help with sleep. So if I can get my whole gut healthier, that would be good. Again, we kind of looked at the lab results, kind of showing my gallbladder, liver area really needing some help. So all these things are going to help. But I feel like we're really getting somewhere. So even though it was a weird day, I think it was productive. So stay tuned for the last day tomorrow.